Okay, I flipped the piece around. I've established a real good contour on my line on this side and pretty much this side. I'm taking out the last, knocked out the last of the chunks. Got my paring chisel. This is where you can take that leading corner and run it into the material that you know is high, making small bites. And you will get surprisingly aggressive cutting. It's a little too much of a struggle. Be prepared to drive it that way. If that's quite a bit of a struggle, or more than you would think it should be, then go back to your initial method of with the grain and take out the series chunks. Don't forget, in straight grain wood, if you're going in and you're hitting resistance, lean the handle down and begin to aim up out of the cut. I just did it there. I should have alerted you to it as I was coming through. Right here I'm hitting resistance, so push down and it then glides up out of the cut and you don't take as much material. The answer is not more force. Usually. There are occasions where a little more force is all you need. And you learn to sense that when you're chiseling. You'll learn to sense, I just need another blow with the hammer, a little bit more force. To complete the cut. That's true in some of the occasions. A lot of times it's take less of a bite, change your angles. Sneak up on it, if you will. That's what I've done with this high spot. Because I want to get it down to where I can Spokeshave or use some other tool. Still see my cuts, but I plan on Spokeshaving through that. If your hands are sweaty or just touching it at all, oak will turn black sometimes. Some people's body chemistry is especially sensitive to that. I think it has something to do with the tannins. Tannins in the wood or something. And it scrapes or planes off, sands off, but sometimes it's surprising how deep those black stains go. At some point, when you bottom out, there is a point at that bottom where cutting one way or the other, you'll discover you're going into the grain. You sense that when I carve spoons. I'll get to the bottom. There's a point where it's hard to get perfectly feathered cuts, either with a knife or a gouge, and you realize, hey, I'm going into the grain there, going against the grain. This piece I can sense already right through here is going to be the challenge. Something in the grain that's contrary to what I want to achieve. There's usually an angle. You can find an angle that will let you accomplish your mission. The wood will tell you to come at it from a certain way. But you have to be open-minded about and thinking about what is the wood trying to say to you, if we can talk with that kind of language, that the wood is trying to say something to you. Those are all very effective cuts there. Piece starting to shine from the chisel. I think I'll get ready and try the Spokeshave. Situation like this, just double check whether a plane will do you any good. You know, will it hit anywhere? The chances are, anywhere it will hit will do you some good. You can tilt your plane a little, but I wouldn't get too far out of whack with it, because that doesn't help you. If you gouge the wood, that's not going to help you. But it's worth checking a block plane. Sometimes a cut here and there is a flattening cut and helps you. But otherwise, the Spokeshave is probably your best bet. It's hard to get your hands in there. It's not necessarily designed for this usage, but you can use it. I like to keep the wheels down tight so it can't get forced upward. And then I like to take one finger and press out at the leading nose of it. My Spokeshaves, I typically do set one side deeper than the other. That helps me feather out of a cut, and it gives me options as to which one I want to bear down, which side I want to bear down and use. If I want to hog some material, I use the deeper set side. If I want to go lighter and feather it off, I use the lighter one. I've noticed in this piece here, I can go at a slight skew, slight angle, and achieve more. And I'm not worried about the skipping right now. If I get any scutter movement, don't worry about that. What you're wanting is chips. You want to remove material. I'm trying to get down to my last two cuts there, my deepest two cuts, and get those out. And I'll be to death. I can feel them. I'm real close on this one. If your plane iron moves, you've got to loosen a hair and re-tighten these set screws just a little, not too much. Now all those scutter marks just go straight with the grain. You can get those out. Now if it's still doing it in select spots, that's where you switch to the scraper. This is actually a paint scraper. Get some serious power on a paint scraper. Look at the shavings. I need to do a video on sharpening a paint scraper. If I'm right about tools, and I usually am, it won't be long, you won't even be able to go to the store and get one of these. Because that's the way they do. Tools that you really can use, that are really almost miraculous in what they can do for how little they cost, with a tiny piece of knowledge on how to sharpen and maintain the tool. Those are the tools they typically do away with. And then they give you something else that's no good to you. So it's my instincts are right, not too long from now, you won't even be able to go to the store and get one of these. Because they'll say, nobody does that anymore. They don't need that. What would they use that for? Nobody scrapes paint. Nobody in their right mind is going to scrape paint. Nobody's going to scrape wood with that. And the buyers and the manufacturers don't even think about what's going on in the real marketplace and in the real grassroots where the workers really work. I like to work from the roughest tool. This isn't really rough, but in this scenario, this is the rougher tool, to the next roughest tool, to a little bit finer tool. If this can do anything, because it does have a sole to it, so it has a limited amount of contact. It sure helped me right through there. Then down to the finest tool in the arsenal for this scenario, this. That's getting pretty good. And then for those of you that just can't stand not to sand something, 320 grit. That's about all I would do. I look for blemishes, and if I see blemishes, I go from backwards to forwards through my rough tools. This will get it out, then I get it out with this. This won't do it. I'll back up to a rougher tool like this. The sanding does something to show me those spots. I guess they fill with dust or something, and I can kind of see them. This card scraper needs sharpened. That's pretty good. Now to this side. Divot here that I'm not too happy with, right through there. To work on that, maybe with the Spokeshave, might be able to get in there and do something. Like that. Like I say, these are skip marks or scutter marks. Don't worry about that right now. They'd have to be really bad to be a problem. You can turn your Spokeshave to an angle like a skew. Probably stop a lot of those. There, I just about got those divots out of there. Right in here. I can always feel better if I'll close my... Here's another divot right here. If you close your eyes and feel, you'll feel instantly your senses will change. It's like it pours more energy into your sense of touch by shutting off your sense of sight. And I'll go back and look and see if I can see what I'm feeling. My light here is not helping me right at the moment. Anyhow, there's quite a bit of reduction to those divots. This one was right in here, right there. This is a workout. I mean, it'll get your heart going, but it's rewarding. Those of you that have your membership to the Y, if you be coming in woodworker, you might want to think about canceling that next year. Guarantee if you work with hand tools, you won't need to go to the gym quite as much. You might not believe that looking at my body, but nevertheless, definitely is a workout in some things, but it's good for you. You don't move it, you lose it. That's what the doctors tell us. You want to use your hands now so that you don't lose them later to arthritis and everything else. Actually using your body, I think people know this by now. Actually using your body is the best way to preserve it in the long run. I'm going to have to sharpen this card scraper. It's not helping me. And they do get dull. My scraper went dull. I thought I'd just show you real quick how I sharpen it. Rub the file on the side. Knocks the burr that was there off. Not pressing very hard. I'm just getting the bulk of that burr off. Now, flat, straight file, single cut file. Hold it fairly level this way, trying to hold it level. A little bit of an angle this way. Six or eight strokes. That already has a burr. And by the way, that will scrape. That will scrape if this was played or locked in the vise here. You could see that this would scrape. The only thing is, that edge I just did, that burr is jagged. If you could see it under a microscope, it's jagged and does not leave the finish that you're actually after. I just filed the fresh metal. I'm going to do the other side with the same thing. Knock any remaining burr off. That is pretty well gone, like so. File it down to some fresh metal. Now I use a screwdriver shank as my burnishing tool. Nice chrome vanadium hard screwdriver shank. Very light, straight, level, no tilt or nothing. That's knocking some of the metal back into itself, consolidating the metal. I'll do the other side. Now I set it on the side of the bench. See if you're in frame. Set it on the side of the bench, and I'm going to consolidate the side of that burr and kick it out. Flip it. Side for side, turn it. Same thing. If you can see, I'm dropping down and rolling, coming off. Flip it. Now, there's no burr there. if you could see it under a magnifying glass, there's actually a U-shaped, hopefully concave element there. So then I put it back in the vise, and now, tight, nice and tight, begin to consolidate it back against itself. And that metal that I drew out and created a curve this way, those little spurs need to go somewhere. Here, my estimation, this is mushrooming it down and pushing those out, and I can already feel a burr. Now on this particular scraper, I can't lean a whole lot because it's soft. So I just go a little bit of a tilt. Same thing on the other side, coming backwards to myself. Little bit of a tilt. Now I have a sufficient burr to cut with. We'll flip it and do the other one. Consolidate it flat and level. Now a little tilting. And that's created a burr. I didn't even use this. Sometimes I will, but I usually don't if I don't have to. Now we'll put the yoke back in and test our cut, our burr that we've created. See how well we did. Chuck it in the vise, dog it to the bench. It's cutting. Nice shavings. That's what I didn't have a minute ago. Flip it over, let's try this edge. Try it this way. That one there, could you have a little more? A little more burr to it, like so. And that's doing what I want it to do. And feather off, and that's got us. Okay, I've shaped this. What I want to do is where the legs hit at the bottom, out near the edge, after the legs, I want to curve up and give the appearance of the whole thing curving, even though the bottom is really staying in a flat plane where it attaches to the legs. Just that sweep up at the bottom, give it a nice feeling of total curvature. I want to show you how to lay it out because it's really complicated. What you do is you take a pencil. I've marked the back where the legs are. I've come out a little bit. It happens to be 2 inches in from the edge. You take a pencil. It's really complicated. Take a pencil, just kind of draw it in there. Same thing on the top. Take a pencil and just kind of draw it in there. That means I'm going to round over here. I'm going to curve up from the bottom. Where that zeroes out, again, very complicated. Take a pencil, mark it. Same thing on the back. Mark that with a square. Same thing on the edge. Where this mark on the top hits, draw where that's going to zero out, and where this other bottom sweep comes up and hits on the edge, draw that out. It's really high-tech marking and layout there. I don't know if you can see this, but I chucked the piece in. At first I tried chiseling off. And you can do that. You can do that all the way through here. You'll be real close. And then you work on it with other tools. probably a plane. But what if you just start in with the plane? And I don't know how well you can see this, but I had a line on top that I'm rounding to, line on the end, a line on the back, and good sharp plane, light set. I wish now I hadn't chiseled off here because I'd be able to see where I'm at in relation to my line. I just have to keep checking against my chisel mark. And I'm getting close. It's kind of like panel raising. By the way, I'm going so far and then I'm coming off of the piece so I don't bust out the other side. Which wouldn't be the end of the world because I'm going to shape some of those edges. A little awkward angle for me, but I need to switch it in the vise so I can get the angle I need. But that gives you the idea. Okay, flat on the table is going to be better coming from this direction for me. I want to turn the plane down, I want to skew and then go along like this. Even if I go off the end, it probably won't tear out. I'm wanting to feather back to my line on the back. Like so. I'll ease that sharp corner there. While I've got it facing. Come from this side, maybe. That could be shaped with a rasp or any number of tools, and I will show you a tool I have that I use for that. Get this side. A little bit heavy set for that. That's better. Mind your vice dog if you have a setup like this. Don't want to hit that. And if I can catch this sharp corner, which I cannot, so take it out of the vise, put it back in this vise. Okay, you can't see any layout here, it's on the other side. I didn't do it all four sides, but I'm getting real close to my profile that I was after. I'll show you. I planed, you might have seen I planed like this. That last little bit of rounding, this is a tool called a Shinto rasp. They are very aggressive. They are actually made in Japan. They know how to make it, and it's got a rough side and a fine side. And it is a remarkable cutting tool that you can shape very effectively with. It's quite aggressive on even the fine side. So in this application I wouldn't use the rough side. I'm already past that point. But even the fine side is quite aggressive. If I want to take all of those planing lines out, those arises left from the hand plane, those lines, this is a tool, or any good rasp, that will do it. If I could afford them, I'd buy an Ariu rasp. They're very good. They cut very effectively. But this is a good compromise cost-wise, and man is it a good cutter. Then, if that's too rough, and it is, I would take a regular half-round coarse rasp, coarse file, and take out those marks from the Shinto rasp. Hardwoods and soft, but in hardwoods a file is remarkable on end grain. And then if you still didn't want any coarseness, I kind of like the coarseness. You know, again, is that human touch. But if you were after the ultimate smooth thing, then take some 320, some high quality 320, and sand it. If nothing else, you can see if you've left any marks. Sanding seems to expose that. So you could get those out. Here's one. You'll see some of the Shinto marks. So the sanding was beneficial, at least to my eye, to help me see what I was left with. And then there's just a little bit of sanding, and I don't think you can get end grain any prettier than that. I'll do the other side. You can kind of see some of the layout there. Could have actually planed another pass or two there on top. Like that. There leaves it a corner there, an aris. Light touch, very aggressive cutter. You need a light touch. These tools, these Shinto rasps, these are not as expensive as a high quality Ariu rasp. They're probably, I think I probably paid a third. You know, you might have $50 to $80 in a good rasp. It's quite an expensive tool. And these you're going to have 15 to 25. The nature of the beast too is that these don't clog too bad. Sometimes the teeth clog, but they have those gaps in there, those diamond shaped gaps, and they don't clog. And I take a wire brush and clean the rasp out if I need to. And what a fantastic shaping tool that's been for me. Okay, I've got the shaping finished, and you can kind of see how the curvature at the top is kind of mimicked a little bit here in this end, even though the bottom is technically still flat, which greatly facilitated attaching the seat to the base. I could have gone on and shaped that into a curve. It's really not that big of a deal to do that. It's just more work, more labor, and I don't think the piece benefits that much from it. And the shaping at the end was certainly pretty easy to do and gives that effect. So I went ahead and attached the seat to the base. I didn't think you'd mind, so I drilled, set it on there, and fitted it. It took a little more fiddling to get these flat. It's actually quite hard to get 4 feet or 4 tops to all be flat together. That's probably the subject of another video, but it's what you would think it would be. You just have to fiddle with it until you get a flat plane there in all 4 parts. And once I did that, I set the seat on there, clamped it, and then drilled 3/4 inch oak dowels all the way through the seat into the leg, and those will get paired off. And I may post a video just showing the finished product, because if anybody has watched any of my videos and seen the evolution of this stool, construction of the stool, they may have a mild interest in it. So I'll put it up on the bench and show you a little bit better view if I can lift it one-handed. Here's one of those through mortises, and all the tenons are through tenons. They're angled tenons, and they all have complete through tenons and are hand paired on the protrusion. So I don't know if you can see that very good. So it's a distinct look to the piece. I don't know if you call that maybe green and green style or craftsman style mortise and tenon. So anyhow, there's the piece. I'll post a video just briefly showing the finished product. And stained. It will get stained dark to match the other stuff I made. Thanks for watching.